Hi everyone, welcome to the session COP204, What's New with Cost Optimization? My name is Rick Oakes, I'm a Senior Manager at AWS over all of our optimization tooling. I also sit on the FinOps Foundation Technical Advisory Council, representing AWS's interests on the FinOps Foundation framework and all sorts of open source specifications for how to do FinOps.
Hello everyone, I'm Lieutenant Fun. I'm a Principal Product Manager on AWS Cost Management Optimization. I work with Rick every day on building customization products.
Thanks, Ladian. So we have a kind of a packed agenda. I'll invite Ladian back up halfway through to talk about some exciting database updates, but to start with, we're going to talk about Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer. How many of you have seen the Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer announcement? Raise of hands. Okay, I'm excited to show you this new feature. We launched it about a week and a half ago. This is a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of dedicated engineers back home who have been working all year long to build this for the FinOps community and all of you that I'm excited to be able to present and represent all of their hard work. So the Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer is a brand new product in the cost management console. And so if you go into the cost management console, on the left nav within the AWS console, you'll see a new button. It'll even say new on it, Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer. And what we heard from customers is that figuring out how much savings plans to purchase is a very difficult question to answer. We have recommendations for how much savings plans you can purchase for the highest ROI, but a lot of times we hear, hey, you know, I've got some resources I'm gonna shut down soon, or I'm gonna optimize, and I'm not sure if I wanna buy that recommended amount of savings plan. What would it look like if I was to maybe buy less than the recommended amount of savings plan? We also heard from customers that we have some savings plans that are expiring pretty soon, and we're not sure if we wanna repurchase them or not. And if we do wanna repurchase them, we're not sure if we wanna repurchase them at the same commitment size, or maybe I wanted to split them up into 2 savings plans or change them to 3-year savings plans. And I wanna see the impact between those different decisions so I can make my savings plan repurchase decisions before it expires. So when it does expire, I'm ready to go with the new savings plan purchase right away. We also heard that the recommendations are on very fixed look-back periods of 7 days, 30 days, or 60 days. But what if you had a period of usage in the last 60 days that you did not want the recommendation product to analyze and provide a recommendation on? So for example, if somebody in your organization spun up a bunch of GPU instances and you're like, no, we don't want, we're gonna turn those back off, they're expensive, or say you do want savings plans for those new instances and you do plan on running them long-term into the future, and you actually wanna capture a smaller window of look-back period for the recommendation product to do an analysis on. So we heard all of this feedback and we designed a new product experience for Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer that allows you in the same UI that you are familiar with to pick a savings plan, to pick your settings, whether that's 1 year, 3 year, payer level, linked account level, all upfront, no upfront, and then I'm gonna switch over to the demo, sorry. In this UI, you can now click this drop-down on the right side and see your currently existing savings plans that you can deselect from consideration of the recommendation product. So you can go in here and say, this one is gonna expire soon. I don't wanna see recommendations based on that savings plan anymore, as if it doesn't exist. You can also go in here and pick the 7, 30, or 60-day look back, or you can pick your own custom look back period. So you can say, in the last week, I've been running a lot of additional GPU. I wanna just focus on, let's say, I started running some demo EC2 instances on the 26th, and I wanna go from the 26th to today. And so I can pick that custom look back period now, and I can say, tell me what you would recommend based on all of my utilization data from the 26th to today, as if this current savings plan does not exist. And then you have this option of saying, tell me what the recommended purchase amount would be, and we'll run that. And when you run this analysis, it is the same analysis that happens when your bill is computed and generated. So all of the savings plan allocation down to every single instance you have in your environment is run on your usage. So in this case, I don't have enough usage to see a recommendation, but you know what? I know I have a lot of usage here in just the last few days. So what if I pick the last 3 days and I run an analysis? And this analysis, depending on the size of your environment, will return within a minute or so. So you can make your savings plan recommendation and purchasing decisions very quickly and iteratively and try a lot of different features. I still don't have enough usage to get a recommendation. So I'm going to type $3 into this. And what's cool about this is you can click custom and put in your own purchase amount to say, you know what, if the recommended purchase amount is too high or too low, or you know, I know that I have enough budget to buy a certain specific savings plan amount, I can type that number and see what it would look like. And so here's what a $3 savings plan would look like for my cost over time. So you can see my on-demand spend, my peaks and my valleys as usage goes up and down, and then the newly purchased or simulated purchased savings plan coverage overlaid on top. In this case, it would be a negative $1,000 a month estimated savings for this purchase. So let's bump this number down to $1. But you know what? I know I'm gonna have these workloads for a long time, so I'm gonna switch it to a 3-year savings plan to get me a higher discount. And I'm gonna run this again on the same look back period I had before. And I'm gonna test $1 at a 3-year commitment amount to see if I get positive ROI on this potential savings plan. So I rerun this analysis, and even a 3 years still gets me negative $58. So at negative 3%. So let's go down to 50 cents. So with this tool, you'll be able to try all of the different commitment amounts you want, run these simulations, see the estimated ROI, and here we go. We get a 1% discount at $15 a month of savings at a 50-cent savings plan per hour. So you can try all of these different purchase amounts in your environment based on the historical utilization that you've discovered. And I see what my problem was. My look back period didn't change to the last 5 days. I'm gonna run this again. So this, again, by adjusting look-back periods to look at your utilization and make adjustments to how the recommendation algorithm works, and then picking your own commitment type and comparing it against the recommended amount, you can play around with identifying what would be the highest savings amount that you can identify. In this case, okay, $121 a month at 4% savings. And so we can bump that up, or we can look at a recommendation amount for that period of time as well and see a higher amount of savings. So you can flip back and forth between an estimated and recommended highest savings amount you can get from the recommendation model, or pick your own dollar amount. And you can go back and forth between the two to find your next savings plan purchase, and then you can easily click add to cart. So in this case, here we go, 9%, $309 a month savings. That's the highest savings amount I can get based on the data from the 1st through the 5th. And then I can click add savings plan to cart, and I'm done with all my savings plan analysis, and now I'm gonna go on vacation and I don't have to worry about my savings plan being underutilized or the ROI not being effective. So that's Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer. And just note here, you have 20 runs per day. So just be aware that every day you'll have an additional 20 Savings Plan Analyzer runs for you to use in every account and payer account to do that analysis. Awesome, okay. Now, the next feature that we launched recently is Dynamo DB Reserved Capacity Recommendations. We heard from customers that Dynamo DB Reservations provide a great amount of savings, but there are a lot of pricing models for Dynamo DB. So I wanna recap Dynamo DB pricing for a few minutes here. There's 3 different pricing models for Dynamo DB. We have on-demand, provisioned, and reserved. And the different pricing models have a little bit different behavior that you have to be aware of when you're making your pricing and purchasing decisions or provisioning decisions. On-demand is really great for maybe non-production development environments when engineers are first building a new application. And moving them over to provisioned can really help when you want like a predictable and steady amount of Dynamo DB capacity where you pay for pre-allocated reads and writes. And then you also have reservations where you can commit to a 1 or 3 year amount of spend for that Dynamo DB capacity. What we heard from customers was, when do I move from on-demand to provisioned? When is the right time to do that? We also heard from customers, once I have moved some of my Dynamo DB usage from on-demand to provisioned, how much should I reserve? When do I move from, okay, we've been using it for a while, we've been provisioning some reads and writes, I want that discount because I know we're going to be running this workload for a long time. So how much of that Dynamo DB spend should I be pre-purchasing at a 1 year or 3 year discount? So we introduced Dynamo DB reserve capacity recommendations. This is the last of the reservation products that we wanted to build a recommendation for that did not have a recommendation. So with this launch, we now have recommendations for all reservation and commitment-based products in AWS. So there are no commitment models that don't have recommendations that we can help you do the analysis to show how much ROI you can get with pre-purchase. And this will tell you some pretty cool information such as what's the break-even point for when a 1 year or 3 year commitment will start providing positive ROI, what's the total discount you're gonna get, and how much of your usage should be reserved for the highest amount of savings. One thing we hear from customers a lot when we sit down and talk about Dynamo DB and all of our recommendation products is, how is this algorithm making a recommendation? What's going on behind the scenes? How do I know it's giving me the best answer? And so this is really important because a lot of companies use specific terms like, gosh, I really want to target a specific amount of coverage. I want 80% coverage, or I want a certain purchase amount. And so I wanted to just give an opportunity to explain, or take the opportunity to explain how the back end of our recommendations work. So what our recommendations are doing is attempting to simulate purchases at all sorts of different purchase amounts. So in this case, we're looking at how many write capacity units should we reserve. And our algorithm will go through, and it uses a search algorithm that runs a bunch of simulations on how much savings would occur if we bought at a bunch of different capacity amounts. So in this case, it's gonna test, like, what if we bought 1,100 write capacity units, what if we bought 1,000, what if we bought 900? And it does that pretty extensively to find the one purchase amount that has the highest total savings amount. So in this case, 1,000 capacity units gives you $10 of savings, so that's the recommendation that bubbles up in the tool. So what this means is it doesn't always prioritize utilization. And you can see that maybe a lower capacity unit purchase would provide you higher utilization, but you actually get more savings sometimes with a higher purchase or a higher commitment amount. Because, for example, if you're running workloads that turn off weekends, for example, say 20% of the time, but you get a 30% discount with a commitment, it's still higher ROI and lower total cost for you to buy the commitment. So there are some times where the recommendation algorithm tells you to buy an amount that's a little bit above your baseline usage in your low periods. That's because it's going to lower your bill the most amount. And that's how our recommendations work across the savings plan recommendation products for compute savings plans, instance savings plans, RDS, RIs, all of these different products that are doing recommendations based on commitment concepts. All of them use this same back-end high-level concept that we are goal seeking on the very highest savings amount result. Okay, we're gonna switch gears to talk about idle recommendations. How many of you saw the new announcement last week or 2 weeks ago now of new idle recommendations in Compute Optimizer? Oh man, okay, we're really excited about this one. Okay, so part of our engagement with the FinOps Foundation, we love going to these events, we love talking to the community. In the 2024 State of the FinOps Foundation report, it showed that the #1 priority for FinOps practitioners is idle and waste cleanup. Number 3 is also forecasting, and then number 2 is managing commitment-based discounts. So we're going down the list working on these use cases in our tooling to help make things easier for our FinOps practitioners. So for us, we wanted to address this #1 FinOps practitioner key priority here. And so what we did is we worked with our service team partners, and we talked about what makes a great idle definition. What can we do to help our customers consolidate idle detection across many services? And how can we make this an easier task so that way it's not still in 2024 the #1 task FinOps practitioners are focusing their time on? And so for us, we worked across a bunch of service teams. We launched support idle recommendations for 6 different services. EBS volumes, EC2 instances, tasks in ECS on Fargate, Aurora databases, RDS, and auto scaling groups. So in the Compute Optimizer console, there is a lot of new savings for you all to go look at. I can't wait for people to show me pictures of the additional savings you're gonna see in the console. I'm excited for those meetings and excitement from all of the additional savings for FinOps teams to go get. All of this shows up in the Compute Optimizer console for all of your accounts. I'm curious, how many of you have Compute Optimizer enabled? Raise your hand if you have Compute Optimizer enabled. Okay, so for those, let's baseline for a second. Compute Optimizer, it's a completely free product in the AWS console that looks at all of your resources and makes recommendations to help you save money and increase performance. And these new idle recommendations will show up side by side with the rightsizing recommendations, and then also in the cost optimization hub, where we show all of your optimization opportunities across your entire organization. So we're gonna switch to demo here. And we're gonna look at some of these recommendations. So here's the Compute Optimizer console. We also did some work on the UI when we did this launch. So you'll see a donut now of all of the different kind of optimizations and how much savings you can have on the left, and then all of the performance improvements for upsize recommendations on the right. And now you'll see this new table on the bottom that shows the total number of resources that have a recommendation and a new column for idle. So this will show how many of these different resources have been found to not be in use. You'll also see on the left nav a new idle resources link here. And if I click on that, you'll see a new idle resource page that lists all of my idle resources. So I'm gonna just pick on one of these here. I'm gonna look at this ECS service on Fargate. And now you'll see this new pop-up that says this is idle, and a button we put in here, because the #1 question we get is, how did you determine that it was idle? What percentage? How much time? What's the definition? Especially when you go to your engineering teams and you say, hey, there's a bunch of idle resources, they're like, what do you mean by idle? And so we put this button in here so every time you send a link or a recommendation to an engineering team on an idle resource, you have the definition at your fingertips, and ideally you don't have to have that conversation every time on what idle means and why it's important to clean these things up. So in this case, this ECS task on Fargate is over-provisioned, it is idle, and we can either look at the right size recommendation for it, which says to downsize CPU and memory for a cost saving, or the recommendation is if this really is idle and you don't need it, you can consider deleting this service. Now what's cool about this is in the details, you'll see an on-demand savings amount. So right here we see that we can save $30 a month. But if I have a savings plan, there's another column here that says after discounts, and this tells me that I will still save money even though I have a savings plan. It's still the right thing to do to right size or delete this thing because there's still savings on the table even though it's covered by a savings plan. And so all of this is shown in all of our recommendations with these 2 columns, on demand and after discounts. So you can always make sure that your optimization recommendations don't actually hurt your cost by leaving a savings plan unused. So that's a really important part of optimization, is that your right sizing and idle work has to be aware of your savings plan and RI inventory to make sure you're not increasing your spend or leaving RIs or savings plans that go unused. Okay, so I'm gonna pick on another one here. Let me go back to the idle homepage. And I'm gonna take a look at some of these EBS volumes. You'll notice it says unattached. This is another fun thing we added when we were looking at the idle criteria, that How many of you have spent time cleaning up unattached EBS volumes? Okay, so we wanted to make this easier for you. So not only do we detect an idle EBS volume when an EBS volume is still attached but has no usage, no utilization for 14 days, we also wanted to show you when you have unattached volumes. And in this case, what we did for unattached volumes is we used a little bit longer look back period, and we're saying if this is unattached for 32 days in a row with no activity on it, we're gonna show it as idle/unattached. So now you can filter on that, and you can examine all of the EBS volumes across all of your environments that are unattached. And you'll be able to see if it's unattached or idle. When you go to the summary page and you see the findings, you'll see some are idle and some are unattached. And so you'll be able to figure out which of these are like very obvious cleanups and which are not. And if we go into a specific volume here, it says, hey, this is unattached. Make sure to snapshot this volume and consider deleting it, right? So you're giving prescriptive guidance to your engineering teams on what is the action necessary to clean up this idle resource. In some cases, the recommendation is to turn something off. So for an idle EC2, the recommendation is to turn it off. For something like an EBS volume, you can't turn it off, so you're gonna have to snapshot it and delete it. So the recommended action to take for these different idle use cases is different. So the next question we hear is, that's great, I wanna look at it for more than one account at a time. So when we launched the new idle recommendations, we came over here to Cost Optimization Hub, one of our other products that totals up savings. How many of you have Cost Optimization Hub enabled? Okay, another completely free product that shows you a lot of savings. Definitely go check it out. Turn it on in your accounts, turn it on in your payer. It'll show you a lot of savings that's very fun to talk about and show your coworkers, or maybe embarrassing. And you can come in here and you can add filters on the different recommendations. So if I wanna just look at the idle recommendations, okay, I can come in here and look at all the stop recommendations, all the delete recommendations for idle, and I can get a custom view of all the idle resources across my estate, and then I can add like tag filters to it. So say I'm doing a lot of tagging work and I have owner tags or account tags or business unit tags or anything like that, and I want to export this data or show this dashboard to different business units for just their idle amount of savings that they should go after, you can come in here and do these filters and these views and share it with the different business units and your engineering counterparts so they know how much their idle cleanup opportunity is and hopefully drive it down. One really cool thing that actually Ledian designed when this was originally launched is it shows you your estimated savings here at the bottom, and it totals it up, and we also show in some views, like I think in the, let me refresh, hold on. Estimated savings, 1,000 a month. So in some views, it shows you percentage of the savings across your total spend, and it gives you the percentage of savings. I'm not sure why that's not showing up. We'll go investigate that. What's that? Oh, remove all the filters. Okay. It's because I filter it. Okay, there we go. So 2,600 in savings, which represents 15% of your last 30 days of AWS spend. This, we like this, and we heard from customers, we want to know the total percentage of savings against our total bill. Is it 50%? Is it 1%? And we want to look at this on a routine basis so we know how big of a problem is this, because the savings numbers can be big or large or small, and we need to know the total spend amount so we know like how percentage-wise how big of a problem is this for us in our organization to go after. So we like that one a lot. That's one of the things where like trending and tracking that with maybe cost intelligence dashboards, you can trend it over time, and there's some really cool KPI capabilities there too. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about RDS optimization and some new capabilities in the Aurora optimization space. So I'm gonna invite Ledian up to talk about all of our database optimization capabilities.
All right, thank you very much, Rick, for all these exciting new launches. So beyond helping you identify idle resources, we also made a big push this year to help you identify customization opportunities for database workloads. So if you remember, back in 2019, we launched Compute Optimizer's first release, and we launched EC2 rightsizing recommendations, and over the years, we expanded recommendations to EBS volumes, to ECS services on Fargate, to Lambda functions, and to software licenses. And this year, we have two major launches in the database space. The first one is the optimization recommendations for RDS. So if you think about, at a high level, an RDS instance is a composition of two components. There's an instance, and there's a storage. So RDS manages compute layer using EC2 instance under the hood. So that many of the strategies that you use to optimize EC2 instances will apply to optimize RDS instances. So for example, as Rick just talked about the idle detection, there's also idle detection we launched for RDS instances. You can also right-size RDS instances, upgrade the instance types, and move to and upgrade the version to Graviton. I want to have a special call out for the Graviton migration because for general EC2 instances, a lot of times you have to manage the underlying operating system yourself. So if you migrate from x86 to Graviton, you will have to use a different version of the operating system, and you have to reinstall all these softwares. But for RDS instances, the Graviton migration is really easy because RDS manages the operating system and database engine for you. So you can pretty much just simply stop the instance, modify it, or restore from snapshot and get back to running without worrying about all the configuration of operating systems and database engines. Similarly, there's a storage layer for RDS, which is essentially an EBS volume attached to RDS instances. And for EBS volumes, we have storage upgrade recommendations from GP2 to GP3, very similar to the RDS volume right-sizing recommendation we already have back in 2020. We also help customers to provision IOPS, to optimize the provision IOPS for IO1 volume types, and also to optimize provision throughput for GP3 volumes, which is a new capability for GP3 volumes that is not available in GP2. So let me also do a quick demo. And take a look at how these RDS recommendations works. So if you go to Compute Optimizer, on the left nav, there's an RDS database link. And you can click on the RDS database, and it shows you all the RDS instances there. So let me just pick one of them, which is an over-provisioned MySQL. As I just said, there are two components of RDS instance. One is the instance, one is the storage. And we show you these recommendations in two separate tabs. So for this one, it says Compute Optimizer find that the RDS DB instances is over-provisioned, and to modify the instances, these are detailed instructions that you can take. And you can essentially send these instructions to engineers, to database administrators, and get these actioned. So for this one, this instance is a db.m5.2x large, and the recommendation is to move it to r6i.x large, which reduces the number of vCPUs by half. And by doing this, you can save $160 per month, which is approximately 30% of the current cost of the instance. And you can also see all these details about the instance. For example, number of vCPUs. The current instances has 8 vCPUs, and after you downsize, you only need 4 vCPUs. You can see that the network performance actually increases, and the EBS bandwidth increases because there's also instance generation from M5 to R6i. And a lot of the engineers will ask, like, what are the metrics that you use to help me to identify these cost optimization opportunities? So one thing that we spend a lot of time on for RDS right-sizing recommendation is to also look at database-specific metrics in addition to the infrastructure metrics like CPU, memory, and swapping, etc. So the database-specific metrics here is, for example, there's DB load metrics. There is the number of database connection metrics. So these two metrics allows you to understand, like, what is the data, how is the database engine performing? And then is there any actual clients that is connected to the RDS instance? For example, if you can see here that there's no database connection over the lookback period, which means that this instance, like, nobody's actually using the database at all, then you can also see that the idle flag here equals yes, and you can see the same instance in the idle resources page that Rick just demonstrated a while ago. You can also configure the default lookback period. So the default lookback period is 14 days, and analyze the metrics over the past 14 days. You can click on enhanced infrastructure metrics. You can edit the lookback period to be up to 3 months. For example, this is especially useful if you have a database workload that is supporting a monthly or a quarterly workload, like accounting application. Now let's move to storage. So for storage, this instance has a GP3 instance type, volume type, so it's essentially like it's already optimized using latest generation. So there's no recommendation for this one. So the current and option, the recommend option is the same, and all these savings are essentially 0. If you have a GP2 volumes, we'll recommend to move to GP3 because that's the latest generation, gives you better performance. And for GP3, you have the option to provision throughput independent of the volume size, which is a feature not available in GP2. And very similarly, it shows you all the, to the instances, it shows you all the metrics that we analyze to generate the volume recommendations. All right, so that's the RDS recommendations in Compute Optimizer. And then, same as all the other recommendations that is available in Compute Optimizer, all the RDS rightsizing recommendations are available in Customization Hub, so you can get an aggregated view of all the savings opportunities. So let me just narrow this down to the RDS ones. You can see that total savings for across all RDS resources here is 1,754 per month, and that's split across the instance storage, optimizing instance itself, as well as optimizing purchasing additional RDS eyes. You can click on View Opportunities, and it shows you all the opportunities for rightsizing RDS instance here in Customization Hub. All right, so that's RDS. So after we launched RDS rightsizing recommendations at FinOpsX back in June, a lot of customers said, that's awesome, but I also have a lot of databases that's using Aurora engines. So in RDS, there's RDS MySQL, RDS Postgres. There's also Aurora MySQL and Aurora Postgres. There's using a different set of slightly modified engines in Aurora. And just about 10 days ago, we also expanded RDS rightsizing recommendations to Aurora. Aurora is slightly different from RDS in the sense that the storage layer of the Aurora is a shared network-attached storage that can be shared across multiple instances in the same Aurora cluster, versus the RDS is they have individual EBS volumes attached to RDS instances. So therefore, our optimization recommendations for Aurora is focused on the instance itself instead of the storage layer, because the underlying storage of Aurora is not actually using EBS in the hood. Very similar to RDS rightsizing recommendations, we have idle detections, we have instance upsizings, upgrades, and migration to Graviton. And let's see a few examples here. So if you go to essentially the same page in the Compute Optimizer, you will see there's an engine column. So everything that is MySQL Community or Postgres, these are RDS. And then everything was prefix Aurora, these are Aurora. So you have Aurora MySQL and Aurora Postgres. So if you click onto a Aurora instance, you will see that there's only one instance type because the storage recommendations are not applicable in Aurora cases. The rest, you can see what's the recommendation here. This is R5. Our recommendations move to R7i because it's a newer generation instance, gives you better price performance with no change in cost. And you can also see all the metrics that we analyze, which includes CPU memory, storage, swap in, swap out network, and database loads. And also, for Aurora, we also show you the number of connections closed or number of queries killed to help you identify these out-of-memory scenarios. So because we have additional metrics available through Performance Insights, and if you enable Performance Insights, which is free to have 7 days of the metrics collected, we also incorporate these kind of metrics into the recommendation to help you understand what are the potential instances that may have a performance bottleneck. And very similarly, all these Aurora rightsizing recommendations are also available through a customization hub. All right, so we're at the end of these presentations. So just to recap, we launched quite a few customization recommendations over the past year. We launched idle recommendations. We launched RDS rightsizing. We launched savings plan purchase analyzer to help you optimize your commitments. And we also launched Dynamo DB capacity reservation recommendations. So thank you very much for coming over, and happy savings. Rick and myself will be here for about 15, 20 minutes to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.